With a number of enticing rookie fantasy targets looking to make their mark on this NHL season, we got to break down some of our favorites you could be going after in a few weeks come draft season. Let's get after it on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's NHL is a young man's game, Mr. Rodin, and we're going to break down some of the top rising prospects, these rookies that could be making an impact on the fantasy scene for the upcoming 2025-26 NHL campaign. What is good, everybody? Welcome back inside the lab to your daily 30-minute source for all things fantasy hockey, and very soon, daily betting breakdowns. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Rodin. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Shout out to the everydayers who continue to hold us down and make us their first listen every single day. We are officially back, my friends. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. You can find us to make sure you're ready to go for upcoming draft season. Rookies, a lot of good players, Steele. A couple of guys who got a little dabble last year, but a number of young players that that keeper dynasty angle is something always in my eye, Steele. These players, though, could be worth a little shot at the end of your draft, perhaps. Number of players we're looking at. Over to you. Where do you want to start? I'm excited about this conversation.
Excited for the conversation, excited for these rookies to showcase everybody their skill set this upcoming season. We're going to highlight a few of them, but there's really a lot to keep an eye out for. We're going to highlight guys like Demidov, Misa, Schaefer, but even someone that Flip just mentioned the other day, and Jimmy Snuggerud of the St. Louis Blues, a rookie coming up this season, Zeev Buem, Isaac Howard, and Matt Sauvault of the Edmonton Oilers, James Hagens of the Boston Bruins as well. Lots of rookies to keep an eye out for, but we're handpicking a few of them for this episode today. And I want to start off with the number one pick from the 2025 NHL draft, Matthew Schaefer, first round pick, first overall pick for the New York Islanders. And I think for me, he's a very exciting defenseman. There's a clear reason from my perspective of why the New York Islanders decided to trade Noah Dobson to the Montreal Canadiens, because they knew they were picking this player. They knew what his caliber of skill set he brings to the table. Obviously, he signed his three-year entry-level contract, but he's still an 18-year-old kid. He's new to the league, obviously. He's projected as of right now on that third D pairing with Scott Mayfield. I don't know how long that lasts. The one negative aspect of Matthew Schaefer is he going to get power play time? Because Tony DeAngelo held that down, and it seems like he'll hold it down going into the season as well. I could see him being tossed on that first power play unit from time to time. But again, really good defenseman, put up 22 points in just 17 games last year with the Erie Otters. Obviously, missed the rest of the season with that collarbone injury he severed in the World Junior tournament. But even on the World Junior stage, he performed as well. So I really like what Matthew Schaefer brings to the table on the blue line.
Yep.
He's demonstrated and established himself as a very elite two-way defenseman for over with the Erie Otters, and I think that can translate into the National Hockey League. Again, top-ranked North American skater entering the draft, widely recognized as a generational level defenseman going into the season. So I think he brings a ton of fantasy value, especially for what you said off the top in those keeper leagues. Again, maybe depends on formats, but I'm looking to keep an eye on Matthew Schaefer this season.
I think of all the players that we speak about, I don't exactly know what his deployment is going to be if he even makes the
That's
team,
the scary
right?
thing.
Let's be real here. This is a player who, despite everything that he's gone through, personal tragedies, injuries, he still was able to show scouts enough that he was taken at the first overall spot. We've seen in the past couple of years, Steele, these projected number ones, Shane Wright, the Yuri Slafkovsky year, they have shaken things up at the top of the draft just because the number one is projected. they don't always go there. And he was projected
Yeah.
and he was taken even with these injuries and a very small sample size relatively. This guy is a complete player. He is a skater. He seems to be also, Steele, in everything that I read and watch about this player, just to be an absolute good human being. And I know there's not a statistic for that, but if you're talking about him making an impact on the NHL level sooner than later, this guy has got to jump to the top of the list in keeper dynasty leagues in terms of players you're trying to anchor your blue line with. So in terms of what he might do this year, and the other names that we're talking about on today's episode, in terms of just rankings from other outlets, he doesn't even catch NHL top 200 love at all. All of the other players we're speaking about, they do, because they probably have a much better shot at minutes at this level next year. Will Matthew Schaefer get there? Excuse me, I think so. However, just also remember that he's going into a bit of an offensive pit. That is the New York Islanders, and if we like his upside offensively, perhaps this is more of a deeper cut when you take a look at a couple of other players on the list, Steele. And let's get to Michael Misa. This San Jose Sharks team is going to be good. Is it this year? Probably not. Is it next year in terms of playoff success? Probably not, but the fantasy value is back with the Sharks. Let's be real. Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, they've got a whole bunch of other young players on the rise. William Eklund as well. Michael Misa led the OHL last year with 134 points in 65 games, Steele, as a 17-year-old. Michael Misa is worth the price of admission, and I think the San Jose Sharks got themselves another really good player here with elite offensive upside. Comes in at 147th ranked on the top 200 on NHL.com, ahead of some pretty good established players. Will he make that mark right away? I don't know what your take is. Over to you, because let's still be honest. Yeah, we like the needle is pointed in the right direction. It's still San Jose, and we still haven't seen him play a lick of NHL ice time. However, if we're talking about forwards other than Ivan Demidov, who you're going after as a rookie, it's got to be Michael Misa as that secondary choice after Demidov.
It really is. What a 1-2 punch combo it is down the middle in San Jose with Macklin Celebrini, now with Michael Misa. You have other guys in the lineup in Will Smith, William Eklund, who had a really good season last year. That top six forward group is going to be very skilled. You also got Tyler Toffoli in the mix for that veteran presence, a goal scorer at heart who can kind of help these young athletes enter the NHL and be prepared, especially at this level. But exactly what you said, he's gotten better and better every single year that he's played in the OHL with the Saginaw Spirit. 56 points, follows that up with 75, and then the career year 134 points. So I'm very excited for what Misa brings to this table as well. Right there behind Matthew Schaefer in the 2025 NHL draft. He was the second overall pick by the San Jose Sharks. He's got exceptional high IQ talent when it comes to hockey, obviously elite vision, a really good shot, and a two-way upside to his game. So when you look at where he's being ranked going into this season, 146 on NHL.com, there's a lot to love with this player, especially when it comes to shot volume, power play time, offensive capabilities, and right there alongside Macklin Celebrini. This is a good way to start a rebuild with those two young centermen right down the middle.
If you're trying to get spicy too, there is still a lot of upside in a player like Yaroslav Askarov, just unproven.
Yes.
What do the San Jose Sharks do in that blue paint? There's going to be a lot of questions to be answered there. If for some reason they find a guy who can maybe provide some sort of consistency or stability, that's going to go a long way for the confidence of all the young players that you mentioned, and that's going to mean better things for their fantasy value. We'll continue to talk about it after the break. The Calgary Flames have a really good blue liner we got to talk about. Demidov for sure, maybe some more honorable mentions, my friend, and more content coming the rest of the week. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, baby. What a comeback by those Buffalo Bills, Mr. Rodin. We here, and if you're not ready for this can't-miss offer from FanDuel, you need to be. Right now, new customers that bet $5 and hit get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. In-play, live action that always gets it going. Steele and I love the same game parlay at FanDuel. It's easy, exciting, and you get your cash outs right away. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com and place your first $5 wager.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. You can also do us a huge favor. We have a very important request from all of you out there. Locked On, we want to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better than it is now. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, answer any questions about advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for helping us out. We really do appreciate it. Flip, we appreciate what the Calgary Flames are doing right now. They've done a lot over the last few seasons, ever since that Matthew Tkachuk, Jonathan Huberdeau blockbuster trade. They've been trying to get back into that playoff mentality, back into the playoffs as well. And a guy like Zane Parek is a very good start on the blue line. Obviously, we talked about Matthew Coronado the other day. Connor Zary signed a 3-year deal with them. We talked about Nazem Kadri, but the blue line, I love Mackenzie Weegar.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that exact offensive punch. Yes, he does. No. He can put up 50 point on a good year. But guys like Rasmus Andersson not bringing it, good defenseman, fantasy hockey-wise. But a guy like Zane Parek, who was drafted 9th overall in the 2024 draft, just put up back-to-back 30-plus goal seasons as a defenseman in the OHL with the Saginaw Spirit, so with Michael Misa, and also put up 107 points in 61 games. This is a very exciting defenseman for the Calgary Flames. How do you look at him value-wise going into the year?
5th overall in OHL scoring last year, 33 goals, 74 assists is just obviously head-turning right there. It's his steady progression that's kind of important to me. You see some of these players sometimes teeter off. He walks the blue line. He really kind of manipulates the game offensively. The Calgary Flames need an offensive piece like that, whether it's on the blue line or anywhere. And that's where I see his value potentially being a lot higher than others, is the need for a player like him in Calgary. And I know a lot of Flames fans will be like, we're good with Rasmus Andersson, Mackenzie Weegar, Jake Bean. None of those guys have the offensive capability and flair that Parekh brings. And I think, like everything I'm reading is they're going to give him all of the shot to make this team out of camp. Does he stick? That's obviously a question with a few of these players. But when it comes to that keeper dynasty angle, Steele, and going after a position on the blue line that is a lot harder to fill in terms of surefire future number one pairing offensive blue liners, this guy is a player I'm going after big time. If he can round out that defensive part of his game, and I think that obviously holds true for a lot of these pieces, rounding out that 200-foot game, that's going to take some time. He has tremendous long-term fantasy value here. Year to year, we might be a little early on him, so I wouldn't necessarily be drafting him. But in deeper formats, I might take a shot on him as my last player off the board, because if he does stick, he is going to put up some points on a team that I just spoke about. What good defense and goaltending can do for young players, the Calgary Flames have that. They have all their veterans up front. They have their veterans on the back end. He will not have to carry that load. I'm seeing some comparisons as well, Steele, to Jake Sanderson. If that comes to fruition, this player is going to be not only your favorite in terms of guys you're going after, he is going to start to circle in fantasy realms as a player to pay attention to.
Not sure if the Ottawa Senators fans out there would enjoy that comparison, but I like it very much. Again, like you said, offensive first mentality, scoring ability, jumps off the page at every single level as well. And you made a really good point. In those year-to-year leagues, maybe we're a year or two early on this guy, but when you talk about keeper dynasty formats, you talk about categorical, if he's in the lineup, this is a defenseman that has a lot of offensive upside, but can bring that banger league beauty in him as well. He had 96 penalty minutes last season with the 107 points. So he shoots the puck. He gets into the nitty-gritty areas as a defenseman. He cycles. He goes hard to the net. He actually scored in his National Hockey League debut with the Calgary Flames last year. So he is not afraid to go to the net, where he actually got that first goal. Top 10 ranked on NHL.com. Ranked, I believe, 186th. 185th, actually, for Zane Parek going into this season. Really like the upside from this player.
Me too.
Ivan Demidov. We've talked about him quite a little bit over the last few weeks in the offseason, what this Montreal Canadiens team is bringing. And again, 2 games last year, 2 points, plays in the playoffs, didn't shine bright on the playoff stage, but still you could see that he was a difference at times for the Montreal Canadiens in that first round battle against the Capitals. And going into the season, he would most likely, and probably is, my Calder favorite. I think he's going to have an outstanding year in Montreal. This is a very deadly, very dangerous team going into this season. So I'm excited for him to play a full year with Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Patrick Laine, all those guys. They get in Noah Dobson as well. We like Sam Montembeault. When you look at Ivan Demidov going into his rookie year, where do you value him? And especially, again, going in back, thinking back on keeper leagues, like how high would you draft this player?
Yeah, keeper leagues is definitely a different situation for me, because this is the caveat I throw out with Demidov. And that's why I don't look. I get the hype. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, that he has come into a lot of fanfare. And even just outside of Montreal, it's a very sexy pick headed into this season. Let's remember how this team is made up out front. Slavkovsky, Bolduc, Doc, Demidov, Patrick Laine, Alex Newhook for the most part, even Cole Caulfield. And I wanted to bring that up because I took some heat on his defensive liability. Cole Caulfield had almost a 3-to-1 giveaway takeaway ratio in the bad numbers. All of these forwards, there's a lot to like. Offensively, for sure, there are some defensive liabilities here. And Ivan Demidov, as a young player who played in the KHL, who has all of this offensive talent, Steele, they have to stick. They have to earn minutes, and they have to earn Marty St. Louis' trust. So in terms of Demidov, he's attractive. I'm not reaching on him, though. Keeper dynasty, I'm comfortable taking him in those top rounds because he will be worth the price of admission sooner than later. This year, I'm going to wait on him. I'm going to wait till that 6th, 7th round, or even maybe a little later in formats. That's just me. Because also take in the fact that the other angle with the Atlantic Division being full of killers this year, goals are nice, but you got to play 2 ways. And if he starts to kind of get shoved down that lineup a little bit and maybe gets in the doghouse, perhaps, you don't want to burn an elite fantasy stock early on in your draft for a player who might teeter out at 40 to 45 points. The high end for me in Demidov is 55, 60 points. Maybe that's a little high, but again, you're not going to get peripheral coverage. Be careful with what you do with Demidov. Sexy for sure. Upside for days. We love what's going on with Montreal. I would say don't reach on this player. That's my take.
No, it's a good point, because I think that's exactly what we saw from Juraj Slavkovsky in his first year. Struggled, didn't get to play the full year, got sent back down, had only 10 points in 39 games. The maturity level wasn't quite there, especially at 18 years old. He comes back a full season, puts up back-to-back 50-plus points. So I think that is a potential possibility from Ivan Demidov. Hopefully he's a little bit more mature in the defensive zone, and that translates to a 2-way game. We know what he can bring in the offensive zone, but how is he going to gain that trust, like you said, from Martin St. Louis? But very good upside, the potential, especially keeper league formats. He could be one of those guys that transcends your fantasy team for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So Ivan Demidov has that skill. I want to talk about one last player after the break that we spoke about a few days ago.
Yes.
You got to look out for these rookies. It's a big year, 2025-26 fantasy hockey season right around the corner. Stay tuned all week long for everything you need on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, making it your first listen every single day. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, we are back to 5 episodes a week. Hit that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate it. The last player I wanted to just talk about real quickly was Alexander Nikishin of the Carolina Hurricanes. We spoke briefly about him a few episodes ago, but I just think when you look at this player, especially for what he did in the KHL with St. Petersburg SKA, 3 straight seasons, really good years, 55 points, 56 points, 46 points in 61 games. This is a guy that brings the boom as well. He was a 3rd-round draft pick, 69th overall back in 2020. Kind of went back and forth a little bit if he was going to play or if he wasn't going to play. Finally gets the contract done. But everything I'm hearing about Nikishin going into this season, projection-wise, opportunity, playing in the top 4 D pairing in Carolina, I just think when you look at the categorical format, which you and I play, obviously, this is going to be a defenseman that you want to take a chance on. I'm seeing him in those mock drafts somewhere around the 100th to 120th spot, somewhere in that range. I believe it's the 9th or 10th round. You're going to want to jump all over him somewhere as that 3rd or 4th D-man on your team, most likely 3rd because he won't be there for 4th. But I think he has that offensive ability. Shane Gostisbehere is projected for that number 1 power play time right now, but I could see Nikishin going in there and taking over for him. And again, I just like these everything I'm hearing, everything I'm seeing about this player going into the season. So this is a defenseman that I'm willing to take a chance on, especially if he's going to fill that 3rd or 4th spot for me.
Look, I'm not going to come on here and say I've watched a ton of Alexander Nikishin hockey highlights. From what I have done, though, is a lot of reading. He is the best defensive prospect outside of North America that we've seen in a while. He also is, from what I've read and seen statistically, one of the best the KHL has ever had. And what I'm reading on, and, I just threw out a comparison that might not be too accurate, is this guy with his size at 6'4", 215 plus pounds steel. Again, Victor Hedman's shoes are very big to fill, literally, but that's the kind of style you get with this player. Offensively inclined at times, but can still throw the body around. He's got that shoot first mentality. And we just spoke about when players are new to the NHL, the best way to have them be insulated and produce is when the back end is already in shape. And how about the Carolina Hurricanes last year allowing the least shots on net per game? They've got a blue line that is steady. They bring in Keandre Miller, which is definitely a nice piece. Separate fantasy for a second. Really good ad for this Carolina blue line. Could be a fantasy boom. Nikishin is going to have all of the opportunity here to succeed. He's a top 4 defenseman who could contribute on the power play and bring you in certain leagues if you have penalty kill points. I know that's not a lot. However, he can be a physical force on the ice who also contributes offensively. Top 4 potential. I don't think we need to say much more because you also bring in what the Carolina Hurricanes are going to do once again this season. Yeah, this is a player that I almost feel kind of gutless about speaking about too much, Steele. He's become one of those fantasy darling selections, I would say, headed into this year. A lot of people paying attention to this defenseman.
You have to. These are the deep cuts that you need to be keeping your eyes on for going into the season. They are a game changer and can transcend you this year. Obviously, rookies, Gotta be keeping an eye out. Again, honorable mentions that I said off the top: Isaac Howard and Matthew Savoie of the Edmonton Oilers. Looks like they're projected. And Sam Rinzel, those 2 players looking to projection-wise playing in that top 6 forward group with Edmonton. So if you get a chance to play with Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, you might want to circle their names going into the fantasy hockey draft, especially for those deeper cuts. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. We're getting back right into it, 5 episodes a week. Stay tuned in all week long. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you back tomorrow.
Peace.